Wow.
Okay.
Welcome to Notorious Women Podcast. I'm Lavetta.
I'm Miriam.
And this is Notorious Women, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
Mm-hmm. Notorious has so many definitions these days.
Yes. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think we mentioned that on our episode 1 of season 2 last week.
We did not. Nope. Listen, I have a Swiss cheese brain. Thank you, Sam Beckett, for introducing me to that concept. I'm sorry, I have a quantum leap problem. Moving on. But yeah.
You were asking me how do I cook my salmon?
I was.
Air fryer.
Okay.
13 minutes.
15 minutes?
13 minutes.
13.
At 390.
At 390.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a fresh piece of salmon, or is it frozen?
It's frozen.
Okay. So you
frozen
put it
wild caught.
Frozen wild caught. Okay. You thaw it out first. Okay.
You put it in cold water to thaw it out. And then, I put my little olive oil and my little seasoning. And then I do skin down and 13 minutes. Yeah.
And it's delicious?
It's delicious. And let it sit for about a minute or two to make sure. Because the thing about salmon is you don't want to overcook salmon, but you also don't want to undercook it.
Right. Mm-hmm. So
I have found in my air fryer about 13 minutes. Because if I do 12, sometimes if it's still if it's not completely thawed out, it's not quite done. So I find that 13, but you don't want to do 400 because I know this is so fascinating to our listeners.
No, I know, right? It's a cooking podcast. Surprise.
Yeah. I found for me, if I do 400, it cooks it too fast. So 390 is good, but at about 13 minutes. And so
what we do is we undercook salmon in a pan and then go, oh no. And then we just take the parts on the side that is fully cooked and give it to our children. And then we poison ourselves. That's what we do. We don't learn from our mistakes. No.
That's the thing about salmon. Because if you overcook salmon, it gets rubbery, right?
Mm-hmm, and disgusting.
But then if you undercook it, it's and I know air fryers, not everybody's a big air fryer fan, but I find that, 13 minutes, 390, and let it sit for a minute or two.
The thing with an air fryer is you can walk away. You can do other things. You can throw it in there. Yeah. Whereas I basically deep fry a salmon in a pan. I put too much olive oil and I put the skin side down. But listen, my children eat salmon. You got to do what you got to do.
If you do it on the stove, the thing with salmon, especially if it has skin on it, is to cover it because then the steam cooks it. Keep it covered.
I don't do that, but I'm gonna now. From now on,
if you do it in the oven, it's even better. But sometimes in the oven, I usually overcook it if I put it in the oven. But on the stove, in a saute pan, you just got to make sure you keep it covered so it's the steam.
We like a crispy skin. The crispy skin is very important. It is vital to the consumption of fish in my house.
Yeah, so that's why it's either air fryer or oven, or because if you do it on
your raw salmon, Miriam, it is not sushi grade, girl. It is not sushi grade. You did not pay for sushi grade. You did it.
Even though I love sushi is the best. On that note, I guess we should get started. This week, I believe you are first, my darling.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I knew that. Weird. Look at me knowing things. What?
I'm so impressed.
Thank you. That's why I said that, because I want you to be impressed with me.
Friends, that's what friends are for.
Keep smiling.
Keep shining.
Knowing you can. Okay, I'll stop.
I don't know if we can afford that.
I don't think we can. That was an accident. Listen, the good news is I can't hit notes, so that works out.
They'll listen to the evidence and they'll be like, never mind.
I am so sorry, but she did not sing your song. I don't know what song she sang.
Right. Neither of them were on the beat. They didn't hit the note right. No melody. It was all
because when I hear
off.
the song, there's like a rhythm, and when I hear her, I'm not so much getting that. So, yeah. Okay, so I go first.
Yes.
So,
Who's your notorious woman this week?
This woman is a badass, but her story starts out dark. So I'm going to throw in a trigger warning. Yeah, okay. I'm like dark these days. But like how she overcame and continues to overcome this notorious lady right here. Yes, girl. Okay. So her name is Lee Young-Soo. Have you heard of her?
Lee Young-Soo?
Yeah. I don't know if she's I can't even remember how I found out about her. Sometimes you deep dive into things and then you find things and then you take pictures of the article you found and then you go through your pictures. And that's my process.
That's what you do. Okay. I got it.
Those are my secrets. You're welcome. Okay. So she was born in Daegu, South Korea. I said that wrong, but that's okay. Daegu. Daegu?
I think it's probably in the West how we say Daegu.
Yeah, okay. I'm like pronouncing every vowel Daegu because I'm Jewish. But I'm wrong, right? And on December 13th, 1928, I know nothing about her childhood. I know that at 16 years later, she was kidnapped and she was forced to become a comfort woman for Japanese soldiers in World War II.
Bastards.
Motherfuckers. So,
no.
Yup. What a bunch of dicks. Her and her friend were captured. They were taken and they were forced into, they were kidnapped and they were abused and they were there for, I think, till the end of the war. So something like 2 years.
Today we would call that trafficked. They were trafficked.
Yeah, that's trafficking.
Yeah.
And so that happened. Awful, terrible.
Oh.
I hope they all eat a bag of dicks. Let's move on. And so in that time period as well, she came home and she survived, but her family didn't recognize her. She had been soiled, if you will. And she was
when you
no
say
longer,
recognize, like accept her back. Oh, okay.
They didn't accept her, like recognized her as their own kind of thing. So she, I can't quite figure out. I don't exactly know what she did. She survived, right? She ate, she lived. But for a long time, and while she was dealing with her struggles, she did not know that this was happening to other people. And so that's what they did, because there are power in numbers and there's power, in being represented, right? We talk about that a lot, but knowing that other people are going through your same struggle can give you a sense of power. So they separated them. So she didn't know that she wasn't alone, even at the camp that she was taken to, that there were other comfort women and they just kept them separated because they're a bunch of assholes. That's me being nice and like watching myself. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. The comfort women, the experience of comfort women and the Korean women who were were trafficked and forced to become comfort women, quote unquote.
Like I like
to the Japanese. Yeah.
Motherfucker.
It's a pretty name for a terrible, horrific thing.
Right? You're a comfort woman. Fuck you. I have been stolen, you piece of shit. I would like to take a piece of string, okay? And I would like to tie up their penises. And then I would like to pull. Yes, that's what I would like to do. Is that a problem?
No, I would say take another string.
Okay.
Pull the balls the opposite way.
Oh my God, you're so smart.
Oh yeah.
It's a really good idea. Yeah. And listen, if you're a good man, you'll agree. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, we don't do it to the good ones.
No, we protect those balls. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, sometimes I say things and they don't really make any sense. But they already came out of my mouth, so what are you going to do about that?
I didn't expect that. Oh my God, it's hilarious. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's all good. It's all good. So this is in the 40s, right? And the next thing that I can find about her, and she's in Korea, so there might be more about her in Korea.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the best I can with what I got. She saw a press conference by Kim Hak-soon on TV, and that had other women talking about what happened to them. So in 1992, she came forward to testify about what happened to her. She stayed quiet for 50 years, feeling shame, feeling like it was somehow her fault. 50 years. And then in 1992, she was like, wait a minute, bitches.
Wow.
And she says that coming forward gave her life a true purpose. So quote her, she says, I thought I was worthless. I didn't talk about it and nobody asked me. Until the women came out, I did not exist.
Yeah.
So.
And just for our audience members who are wondering, we're going to spell it out. So comfort women was the name that the Japanese gave, usually, Korean women that they kidnapped during the war, and forced into prostitution for Japanese soldiers. And they gave them the name that translates to comfort women. So that's what we mean. Just to spell it out.
Just to be very clear. Yeah.
And so she was trafficked. And then when she went back home after the war, her family rejected her for having been kidnapped and trafficked.
Yeah. Which is, it's so sad, like the way society works and like it doesn't, like we need to fix this because the blame on women for everything, it just needs to stop. Like, again, the soldiers who kidnapped her and then subsequently raped her, those people we can tie with our string by both the peni and the balls and pull in opposite directions. Yes.
They get all the blame. Like,
she is a hero for surviving that.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm sure like to the family, they're like, oh, it's dishonorable. It's bringing dishonor on the family. And they may have seen it as social suicide in their community.
Yeah.
Even though they all know that she was kidnapped and forced into prostitution by their colonizers.
Yes.
So, but it's just so fucked up how, like you said, even you get blamed
blame
for
women. What were you wearing? What did you say to the soldiers? You know what I mean?
They kidnapped me.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you fight back? They kidnapped me. They were soldiers with guns, and there were a lot of them, and they kidnapped me.
Yep. And I was 16.
Yeah.
But so also, it doesn't matter what age you are. You were kidnapped. They had guns. You did not.
They kidnap people in the United States and keep them 5 miles away for 15 years. Like,
yep.
So, yeah.
So that's how that happens.
Because it's one thing to go through that process, but then to come back home and to be rejected all over again. That's why she went for 50 years and didn't say anything.
Yeah. You could have, I just, like, it's a horrific thing, but her life could have been saved much earlier by having been embraced by her family and supported.
Yeah. Oh.
But in 1996, she attended Kyungpook National University and eventually received her master's degree in 2001.
Wow.
She got her education. At the Women's International War Crimes Tribunal on Japan's military sexual slavery held in Tokyo in 2000, she testified about what happened to her during World War II and then later shared her story at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. I'm going to be a little bit all over the place because of how I found things. In 2007, she testified in front of the United States Joint Congressional Session about her experiences during World War II. She said, quote, "I am an honorable daughter of Korea. I am not a comfort woman." So she says that her experience was traumatic. And after her testimony, the Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, I think I'm saying that close to right,
Yep.
came out and denied that Japan was culpable and that a former apology from Japan's cabinet in 1993 was not necessary. Okay. So many bags of dicks. I'm exhausted.
History is supposed to move forward, not backwards.
I know. But it seems to be like hitting a roadblock, if you will.
That's because humans are dumb. Now I understand why God destroyed the earth first time. I get it.
That Noah story
It's
makes
like,
sense.
let me start
to you.
over. Yep. Let me start over.
Yeah.
God,
you
idiots.
maybe onto something.
Idiots. Yeah. I'm gonna start over.
I was trying to explain that story to my children. What happened? I mean, I don't know that it really happened. Why did? Yeah, no, I know it. It's messy.
Because children make more sense than adults. They're like, why would they do that? Like, why would they continue? Yeah, like, why would people know they can get people sick and still go around them? Because people are dumb.
Yeah. I mean,
because that don't even make sense to a child. Child's like, I don't understand, because it makes no sense, child.
Yeah, you're correct.
Adults are dumb. Yeah,
because we're not actually much smarter than you are. We just have more like information, maybe, but maybe not.
We're just bigger and dumber. I don't. Just tell your kids, the older you get, the dumber you get. Just the smartest you ever going to be is at 6. I'm just saying.
I mean, I'd say 10. 10. Be smart at 10.
Okay. Be smart at 10. And
I guess, but then you hit puberty and then it fucks it all up. God. So, however, even though he's a bag of dicks, the outcome of her testimony, and along with 2 other women who were in her circumstance, gave testimony as well, led to the House passing a resolution, the U.S., to ask the Japanese government to apologize formally to former comfort women. And the resolution was passed unanimously. So sometimes our country does something right, Lavetta.
Well, I mean, America can tell other people what to do.
Oh,
but
we are so such good, moral, upstanding representatives of humanity when it comes to anyone but us. Although that's not even true.
It's like, yeah, Japan, you better apologize for what you did during World War II. Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But slavery's so long ago. Why you keep bringing all that stuff up?
Also, Japan.
Why you keep bringing up Jim Crow?
Japan and World War II. Is there something that happened in the U.S. soil? Japan and World War II. Is there anything that maybe we could apologize for at Japan and World War? This feels familiar. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I will say this. We were at war. It's not right.
Nope.
But I find it ironic that they want Americans like apologize Japan for something that happened during the war in the 40s. Mm-hmm. Yet we still had Jim Crow.
Like
in the 40s.
In the 40s. Yeah, it was law. It was law.
Even after we bombed Pearl Harbor. After we bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yes, we did that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but yes, they should.
Yes. Oh, yes,
these
absolutely.
Women, that's correct. But also, let's not be like, yes, we are the moral compass of all things.
Yeah.
When it's questionable.
But I do understand the power of having the United States take that stand.
Yes.
So that was huge. Yeah.
So the problem, this will be new information for you, is that the right-wing elements of the Japanese government have been trying to erase that history. They're just trying to erase it, which I know is surprising to you. Because
nothing to see here.
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to teach you this because you don't know it. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So the right wing. It's just exhausting, isn't it? Okay. So in 2014, but she's trying. And remember, she was born in 1928. So in 2000, she's still going. In 2014, she met with Pope Francis. So she's a devout Catholic, and she was able to meet with him to gain comfort.
Oh, wow.
I actually don't know how that worked out, but I think okay. I don't know.
Wow.
In 2015, she attended the South Korean National Assembly's exhibition of art created by former comfort women. And she's created art. You can look it up. She's done some beautiful things. She later went to San Francisco and she received a commendation award from the city council. And she asked the city to install a memorial to former comfort women. I don't think they did that, but please tell me if I'm wrong. And she was a guest of California Representative Mike Honda in 2015. And she participated in protests in the United States when Prime Minister Abe visited, which I don't remember. Do you remember this?
Vaguely.
Okay.
Vaguely.
She continues to participate in weekly demonstrations held on Wednesdays in front of the Japanese embassy. She always wears a traditional Korean hanbok, including words I cannot pronounce, so I'm not going to really try, but
when you say
the whole shebang.
I'm sorry. So when you say weekly, is that here in the States or?
No, in Korea, in front of the Japanese
in Korea.
embassy. In Seoul.
Okay.
She says, quote, "I am a Joseon daughter. I am an honorable Korean." And she also says, "I don't want to advertise that I am a comfort woman victim. Rather, I want to be a problem solver that can ensure that there will be no other victims of war such as us." And she says that she will not give up until the Prime Minister acknowledges the truth of her and other women's testimonies. Okay. In May 2020, she accused the Korean Council for Justice and Remembrance and someone named Yoon Mi-hyung, who is the former head, I'm piecing this out here, of misusing funds and embezzlement. So as a result, she said she would no longer attend the demonstrations. However, she did make an appearance later on in Daegu. I'm piecing this together. But in 2020, she was 91.
Wow.
Yes. So in March 3rd, 2021, she met Foreign Minister Chung Eui-yong, and she asked the Korean government to raise the Japanese military sexual slavery issue at the International Court of Justice, so the ICJ. She also referred to a Harvard law professor who said that Korean women voluntarily chose to be comfort women in his paper entitled "Contracting for Sex in the Pacific War." She said that professor should be dragged to the ICJ too, and he should be.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. It's like when people are like, oh yeah, black people like being slaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wasn't that bad? They got clothes and food.
They got food for free.
And it's like, what part of the pictures of people wearing rags do you not see? Also, no human being likes to be enslaved.
Would you change your freedom?
I mean, the only slave of who I want to be is Michael B. Jordan's sex slave. Okay, yes, I know that's inappropriate, but
girl, even you would have a contract, you know.
Exactly.
You know
so, yeah, this motherfucker needs to be dragged. He needs to be dragged behind a wheel.
Do you remember that string theory I had earlier? It's not the quantum leap one. It's a different one. It involves penises.
he needs to be dragged by, he needs to be attached to the spoke of a wagon with 2 horses.
Yeah.
Not one, 2.
2 horses. Yeah.
And dragged down the street. That son of a bitch. And I just love it how it's always a man that's like, oh, it's no big deal being raped. It's no big deal being forced into prostitution. Women like it. It's
they
not
do.
that bad.
You know what? I just feel like he should try it on for size himself. Like, he really enjoys, he thinks, then he please to go to city jail for 3 nights. All I'm going to say. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting.
Tell me you're a piece of shit without telling me you're a piece of shit. Just.
He's a piece of shit. Motherfucker. Okay. So in March 2021, she is now seeking judgment of the United Nations, and she is leading an international group of sexual slavery survivors and advocates, including those from the Philippines, China, Indonesia, Australia, and East Timor. And they sent a petition to the UN human rights investigators in early March 2021 to press Seoul and Tokyo to jointly refer to the issue to UN's International Court of Justice. So she says, both South Korea and Japan keep waiting for us to die, but I will fight until the very end. This is from the AP, by the way. She said her campaign is aimed at pressuring Japan to fully accept responsibility and acknowledge its past military sexual slavery as war crimes and properly educate its public about the abuses through textbooks and memorials. So, like, here's the thing. They did real bad. And Germany is a fantastic example of how to do real bad and take their time and listen to others as to how to fix it. Okay. And I'm Jewish, so I understand that fixing it is relative. Maybe go back in time and don't murder my people, but you can't do that. So, right? It's like slavery. You can't go back in time and take that away. Right. You can make reparations. You can.
And you can at least acknowledge it. So I have a question, because I thought Japan did. So did they not formally acknowledge comfort women in 93? Or was it like...
I can't quite figure this out.
I think it might have been like, I remember this. Like, I think it may have, I studied this because that was my major. Asian studies was my major in college.
Oh, okay. So you should know more about this than I do.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it was always a fight. And I feel like in 93, Japan, the prime minister in 93 acknowledged, I think, and that's like was huge. But I think it fell short. It wasn't like a formal apology.
So what I am gleaning from what I can gather, #NotHistorians, please tell me more if you know more. I'd love to bring it up again if I could, is that there was an apology, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't formal, and it didn't change how they educated. We know, gotcha. Like in America, we learn about internment camps, and it is part of our history books. And we're like,
well, for now,
who knows? Right. Like Germany, in their history books, we did this shit and it was fucked up, and we're going to do better. And so, you know what I mean? Like, and that's a big argument in our culture now.
The benefit of that is like, we fucked up, and this is how we tried to make amends.
Yes. Say you're sorry. There's so much benefit in truly looking inward and going, okay, that's what we did. At the time, that was normal. That's in so many air quotes, they can fuck off. But say whatever you need to say to make yourself feel better about it, but acknowledge that it was wrong and that it happened. And reparations, bitches, like, I'm sorry. I'm not even sorry. I'm not sorry.
They need to run these ladies and their families their money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
They need to run them some cash.
Yep. Cash money. And I again, I wanted to bring her to our attention, and I'm doing a terrible job of giving you like lots of real information, but I'm giving you like, because I think there was.
Well, I think it's important for people to know about this? Because I think a lot of people, I know about it because of, I studied it, but also because I know about Japanese history. And so a lot of people don't know about this. And she's right. They are waiting for them all to die.
They are.
So they can sweep it under the rug.
So according to the Korea June Gang Daily, again, and this is an article I found, last August, at the age of 94, she was waiting to meet with U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on the National Assembly grounds on Thursday. This is in Seoul, Korea. And somehow was pulled out of her wheelchair. Now, she had been trying to see her and talk to her because she, when they met in 2007, she was very supportive of her cause, Nancy Pelosi. So she's just trying to get her, and somehow she got pulled out of her wheelchair. 94 years old. She has a mask on her face, and there's like a picture of, and I think they tried to move her and she fought. I don't know. It was a lot of speculation, but I don't imagine she threw herself out of her wheelchair. No. That doesn't make sense to me. And they said, well, the Secretary General of the National Assembly and the chiefs of protocols and security of the Assembly visited her in the hospital to convey words of consolation in person. That's what the paper said. Okay. So she had tried to meet her before. So this was her second attempt to meet her during the speaker's visit to Seoul. Before that, she tried to wait outside her hotel the night before. So here's what I see. Let's see. Okay. So she mentioned the issue during her meeting that Thursday when this thing happened again. So at the joint press conference, she mentioned it again, and Pelosi says, in our previous visit to Korea in 2015, we were able to take pride in passing the legislation in the Congress relating to comfort women legislation. And our Congress passed a spending bill for 2014 that asked the Secretary of State to encourage the Japanese government to address issues regarding the comfort women survivors based on the 2007 resolution. And then there was, so the Seoul, okay, here's what I know. The Seoul Central District Court ruled on January 8th, 2021, that the Japanese government must pay 100 million won, which is like $77,000 each, to 12 women who were forced into sexual slavery by the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. What I don't know is if they've done it. Because, or if she feels like it's hush money.
And it's such a small amount, and only to 12 women. Yeah. Obviously, we know there were at least thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not millions.
Yeah. And their families deserve it.
Yeah.
And Japan protested the ruling. So, again, I'm bringing this up more out of curiosity because I'm also curious that I think probably internally in the Japanese government, sentiments have swayed since 93, because I felt like the Japanese were actually getting closer to acknowledging this, but now it sounds like they've gotten farther away from it. Because and I think that's what she's fighting, because I think it's just not enough. And the idea that you're erasing these women's lives.
Yeah, they're hoping that they die out.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So I'm not letting her die. I'm going to talk about her, even if I don't really know exactly what's going on.
But, encourage our listeners to go and do their part and learn. And say her name one more time.
I'm going to read it so that I don't mess it up.
Okay.
I'm going to find the piece of paper that it's on so that I can read it and not mess it up.
You're so funny.
Her name is Lee Young-Soo. And she
Lee Young-Soo
is 94 years old and puts on her mask and gets in her wheelchair. And she gets it done. Like
Lee Young-Soo. She's like, I am here, bitches.
Mm-hmm. And she will not be erased. Mm-mm.
Wow. Oh, do I still have my Sorry, let me close that part of my...
Do you have anyone to talk about, or did you just...
Yes. Guys, this is virtual, so we have a lot going on here. Yes. So I have a doozy for today.
I'm ready. Let's go.
My notorious woman this week is a Japanese woman, actually, who was around the same time, but having a similar experience, but for completely different reasons. So my notorious woman this week is SADA Abe.
Okay.
Yes, Abe, no like idea. The prime minister.
That sounds
Abe.
Familiar.
Yes.
No kidding.
So some of my sources today come from a YouTube channel called Briefcase on YouTube. It's a great channel. You guys should subscribe. A CCLT Nation article, and Wikipedia and Murderpedia.
Okay.
Those are just some of the sources. So, my notorious woman today again is SADA. That's SADA Abe, ABE. Now, SADA Abe was born on May 28th, 1905. She was the seventh of 8 children of Shigeyoshi and Katsu Abe, an upper-class Japanese family and a well-respected family of tatami mat makers in Tokyo's Kanda neighborhood.
Okay.
So because it's 1905, only 4 of the 7 children survived, and SADA was the youngest of those 4 surviving children.
Okay.
Now, SADA's
that must
brother.
Have been so crazy.
Yeah.
All that trauma no one talks about.
No one talks about it. And this happened to women all the time. Now, SADA's brother, one of her older brothers, was Shintaro, was known as a womanizer.
Okay.
And after his marriage, this is speculated, right? I saw this in a couple sources, but not all of them. But I'm thinking it's probably true because of what follows afterwards. So, it's reported that he ran away with most of the parents' money.
What?
Wealth. Yeah.
Oh my God. What a dick.
And because of this, the family was no longer well off. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Now, but they still weren't poor, but they just weren't as moneyed as they were. So I can't imagine he took all of the wealth, but he probably took a big chunk of it,
Wow.
So because back then people had their money in bank, but they had it in different things.
It was
gold,
like
they had it in
gold and things.
Yeah.
Right?
So, obviously this caused problems in the home. And so the remaining, siblings started acting out. And her older sister, called Teruko, was also known to be a little bit, for the time, probably have a lot of boyfriends. It says several lovers, but I'm not really sure if I
what
feel
that
like
really
sometimes
means.
I feel like sometimes this history is told by men also who have their own sort of POV that's not necessarily the most accurate POV.
She smiled at several different men. Obviously, she had several lovers, right?
Well, because of this, apparently the father sent Teruko to work in a brothel.
What the fuck?
Which was not an uncommon way to punish female promiscuity in Japan at the time.
Wow. That's really horrible.
I think but it says that he also brought her back. So I'm just setting all this up. So he brought her back. It was sort of like to kind of like see what your fate could be, and so he sort of brought her back because she was acting out as as teenagers, not just young women, but teenagers will do. Now, in contrast, at the time, SADA seemed to have been doted on, especially by her mother.
Okay.
Who encouraged her. Her mother also encouraged her interest in music and singing and playing the shamisen, which was activities at the time that were closely associated with becoming a geisha.
Oh, okay.
Now, Geisha are not prostitutes, people. Let me just clear that up. Geishas are normally, you have to apprentice and you have to train years to become a proper geisha. They are paid companions in tea houses and in entertainment houses, but they're not paid for sex.
Nope.
They're paid for their musical abilities, for their calligraphy, for entertaining generally upper class people. That is what a geisha is. There's plenty of movies out there. Go and look it up. But geishas also were not necessarily considered something for upper class girls to aspire to, however. So basically a geisha would be like a Kardashian or a Instagram celebrity. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So a geisha would be like, I show you
my bikini, but like obviously you can't touch me. But you can like this post 800 times, and then I get advertisers.
Well, it's more like it's more like a social media star who does like makeup tutorials but they would be known for makeup tutorials as well as like, the musical ones. Like they're doing something interesting in these videos, and they have a lot of followers. That's kind of like what geishas would be considered.
You
That's
have
like
to develop a skill. Yes.
Yeah. And like, so they're providing content, and that would usually be in the art of dress or dance or song or singing or playing instruments or what have you. Right.
Okay.
But they would be doing this in person. So, because they had this sort of like cultural phenomenon, and they were kind of like, social media glamorous celebrities, who weren't necessarily from upper class families. Other young girls, even if they were from upper class families, tended to look up to them because they look so glamorous and they wore stylish makeup. And Sada was one of these young girls as well.
Okay.
Now, as the family, so there's some turmoil in this, but she comes of age. So when she comes of age, and I think there's tension because of what the brother had done, and then the experience that Teruko, her sister, had done. She comes of age and she starts acting out also. And she starts hanging out with like a group of kids that, kind of suspects, kind of sus, as the kids would say nowadays.
Yeah.
But at the age of 14, during one of these outings with one of her groups of friends, she was raped by one of the acquaintances, a university student.
What a fucking bastard. What a piece of shit. So that my string theory applies here as well. We'd take a string and we tie it tight around his penis, and then we take a second string. Yeah. Yep. Pull.
Now, as you can imagine, she's 14 years old. She gets raped by someone she knew that she had hung out with before.
It was like a friend.
An acquaintance, someone. It wasn't a stranger. So it wasn't unlike what most, and this is actually more common than people realize. That this usually, perpetrators of rape are people it wasn't some creepy dark guy down a dark alley. It was a guy that she thought she could reasonably be safe with because she had been around him before.
Yeah.
So obviously this was an intensely traumatic experience for such a young girl.
Yes.
And by all accounts, it profoundly changed her personality.
Oh, I mean, I get that.
So instead of just a normal one, I want to hang out with my friends and be more independent. She wanted to hang out with more of her friends, and she became basically a difficult teenager. A difficult teenager with PTSD, basically.
Yeah.
But because this is 1920s, and a traditional, socially strict culture, the parents weren't too chill about this. So they deemed her basically difficult and uncontrollable. So they sent her to a geisha house in Yokohama when she was 17.
Wow. Okay. So just get rid of the problem by just moving her along. Cool. Now, the art of psychiatry has come a long way in therapy. Yeah. She could like stand back and could leap back there and be like, it would help honoring her pain. No? Anyone? No?
Yeah. Okay. Now, Toku Abe, Sada's oldest sister, she said that Sada wished to become a geisha. But Sada herself said later on that her father, much in the same way he treated her sister Teruko, he sent her to the geisha house as punishment.
Okay. I mean, that tracks, right?
Yeah, that tracks more so. So now, Sada, she goes to the geisha house in Yokohama. Now she's 17. Now keep in mind, geishas are usually apprenticed at very young ages, like as young as like 8 or 9.
Oh, wow.
They start in these houses and they kind of basically work. They do the grunt work. They're kind of like PAs, unpaid PAs, right?
Okay, yeah.
They just get room and board, but they have to work. And then they are, when it's decided, they start to learn the actually art and craft of becoming a geisha as the years go on, right? But she's dumped there when she's 17. So she's kind of old by starting geisha training standards, even though 17 is very young, but still. So even though because becoming a true star among the geisha, you had to apprentice from a very young age, she was at a very bad disadvantage if she really wanted to find her way here. So, and even though she was from a well-off family and well-educated, she was far more educated than many of the other girls at the geisha house, but she was never able quite to achieve the high rank that she wanted to do as a geisha. So even though, again, geisha are not prostitutes, but because she was never able to really rise above the ranks at her age, she eventually was sort of relegated to mainly sex work with clients. It's reported. So it's like, you're too old to become a geisha. You're not on the geisha track, so you have to keep your room and board. So how are you going to do it? Okay?
That sucks balls. I mean,
yeah,
that's maybe inappropriate, but that's
geishas are not sex workers.
No, they're not.
It's a different kind of thing, and so I just want to keep reiterating that.
It's almost like a ballet, like ballet training, right?
Yeah.
Like
yes.
She had like dance classes and stuff, but she didn't start at the very young age at the very professional school, and so by the time she showed up, she had some skill, but she really couldn't do those things because she just hadn't had that training. Yeah.
And also, I wonder if the father did this because also they did it for the money. If some money exchanged hands, I wonder. It wouldn't be the first society where fathers sell their daughters for money,
and let's
especially
talk about
if she's
the
becoming
fact
difficult.
Her options were so limited.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I know it was almost 100 years ago, but I'm old. And I feel like it wasn't that long ago that her options
not in the
were
scheme of time. True. Yeah. So now again, because she's entering this world with no formal training, she was relegated to the lower ranks within the house. Now in Japan in 1930s, rank is everything, like it is in Japanese society. So reportedly, she worked at this geisha house in Yokohama for 4 or 5 years, and eventually contracted syphilis.
Ugh.
So and because this disease could not be cured at the time, it could only be controlled. This meant that she would have to undergo required regular physical examinations. Something that geishas, because they were not sex workers, were not normally required to do.
Okay.
But there was in Japan at this time legal sex workers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I mean, that's
what I'm
fantastic.
saying. Like there's different categories, like you go to so there's different categories of it. So it is something that was accepted in society, but you had to be licensed to be a legal sex worker. That means you have to get tested. You have to get, checkups regularly so they can regulate everything. Okay.
I mean, I think that's how to do it. Just don't force them to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so she also realized, but also when you became a licensed sex worker, the pay was much better. So you can set your rates.
Yeah.
So she could actually make a decent living. So because of this, she decided to officially leave the geisha house and enter a brothel.
I mean,
and therefore enter into the better paying profession of officially becoming a sex worker.
Listen, if you're going to do it, make your money. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
So she began sex work in Osaka in the famous brothel, the Tobita brothel district, but soon realized there was not nearly as much protection for sex workers as there was for geishas.
Oh, yeah. Because we hate women. I know. Yeah.
So the work was more dangerous, and because of that, she was very feisty, thank God. But she gained a reputation for being a troublemaker. I mean, which included accusations of her stealing money from clients.
I mean, that's okay. Listen, if you're not getting protected, take your money. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's fine.
I mean, even though it was legal, it seems like it was still set up like you didn't necessarily have a pimp, but you just had an organization that you had to pay probably parts of your
I'm sure.
profits too, right?
Yeah.
Because she tried to leave the brothel several times, but was soon tracked down by the well-organized legal prostitution system. So they had enforcers. So you can't just leave. You can't just decide that you don't want to make money because people are making money off of you.
I mean, listen, it sounds to me like it was legal so they could pimp you out. That's what, like it was legal, but like not in the way that I'm fighting for. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So eventually she did, however, succeed in escaping this brothel. And she began working as a waitress. But again, waitresses, I would imagine, don't pay as much as sex work. But
I hope sex work pays more. I'll say that.
I know, right? You're out of sex work, but you're also still struggling. So the wages were low. So she soon went back to prostitution again, to sex work again. Though this time as unlicensed, and began working in unlicensed brothels in Osaka, which she was working in 1932. So by this time, 1932, she is what, 27?
Yes. Yeah. Very good math. So quick. Go.
And so now she's in an unlicensed brothel in Osaka, which gave her even less protection. Yeah. So she's got to figure something out. So to make matters worse, between 32 and 34, both of her parents died. And she still was a good daughter. She went back and she took care of her mother when she was sick, and then went back and took care of her father when he was sick, and they both died. So in 34, she was even more alone and still in need of making a living. So she began doing sex work again. But in 1934, she was arrested in a police raid on an unlicensed brothel that she was working at.
Oh my God.
Now, the well-connected friend of the brothel owner, a man by the name of Kinosuke Kasahara, arranged for her release. Kasahara was attracted to her, and finding that she had no debts, he made an agreement with her to become his mistress. Because again, women can't go out and make a living unless you're a waitress. It's not enough. So he set up a house for Sada, and provided her with an income. And he said one thing that he remembered about her is that she was really strong, a real powerful presence. Even though he said that he was pretty jaded at the time, she was enough to astound him. Now, at first, this was great, right? She found a sugar daddy, of course, Kasahara was married, of course. I
mean, I was getting that. Yeah.
And this is going great. She liked him. She begged him to leave his wife, but he's like, I can't do that.
What I said was mistress. That's what I said.
Yeah. So she's like, well, can I take another lover since, I'm lonely? Fair. And he's like, no. I'm paying all the bills. That's not how being a mistress works. What part of mistress did you not understand? Yeah. So she ended the relationship, or the relationship ended. And he actually, I think she was very upset with it. So to sort of get him off of her mind and get him out of her system, she went to Nagoya. So in Nagoya, she started working as a waitress and started a brief affair with a man by the name of a professor by the name of Goro Omiya.
Okay.
Now, Goro he had political aspirations, and because of this, he was unable to marry her because by this time she had done sex work. And so, yeah, but he was supportive of her trying to improve her life, and he was very supportive of trying to help her do that. So he told her that maybe she should go back to Tokyo, and start an apprenticeship in a restaurant.
Okay.
Like get into food service. So he was supportive of that. So that's what she did. She went back to Tokyo and she started working for a restaurant that's called Yoshidaya. Yoshidaya was and this was in 1936. It was a small but very successful restaurant. So I think it has one of those, it had like cachet at this point, but it's very, very successful. The owner of the establishment was a man by the name of Kichizo Ishida in his 40s. And he ran the business along with his wife. Who basically, by all accounts, his wife really ran it, and while he just ran around with women.
Yeah,
because
I've
it's
heard
the
that
1930s.
Story. Yep.
So to be fair, Yoshidaya had opened the restaurant in the 1920s, and so it had been around for a while. But again, it was very successful. A place you would go to apprentice to start a career in the restaurant business. So, of course, because he's a ladies' man, when Sada starts working at the restaurant, he starts flirting with her.
He's like, "Hey," and she's like, "Oh Lord."
Yeah, well, they started flirting, and soon the two fell into a torrid affair.
Oh. Drama.
Where they would go away from on weekend trips, and while his wife stayed back at the restaurant running everything, she probably was like, "Good riddance, take him off my hands."
She was like, "I'm exhausted. Off you go."
Yeah. So now they first went away for 2 weeks straight, where it was like hot and heavy sex. They basically just went off and like stayed inside all day and just basically like the Maxwell song. Fuck until the cops come knocking. They just
listen. 2 weeks of that. I got a yeast infection just thinking about it.
See, this is men make movies about this. A woman
exactly.
Just like, okay.
Women are getting antibiotics. Okay.
So now after this initial 2 week like love nest getaway, Sada was obsessed with him.
Oh, okay.
And she began drinking excessively. Again, she's just like, "Leave your wife." He's like, "I'm not going to do that. It's working out great for me. We're not going to do this."
Yeah, no, my life is perfect.
But of this relationship with him, she said that with Ishida, she said that she had come to know true love for the first time in her life with him.
Okay.
Now, again, this is a woman who was raped at 14, then was acting out. And so instead of just having some support at home, was sent to work as a geisha. But because she was old, they relegated her to sex work. She got in there to survive, but it seems like she's looking for love, right?
Yeah.
Because even when she was the mistress of the other guy, she wanted him to be with her own.
Yeah. And she was fully set up. You know what I mean? Yeah. She didn't have to have sex with anybody but him. Like she could have a house and like money. But
he's like, "I can only give you 50% of my time, if that much, because I probably got other bitches too." Because that's how that works.
100%. Yeah.
She made the mistake of liking these guys.
Yeah, exactly. She could have had it all.
She could have had it all. So now this is her second situation with this guy, and she's begging him, but she's saying she really fell for him.
Okay.
And every time he would go back to his wife, she would have intense jealousy.
Okay.
So racked with intense jealousy and obsessiveness, she attended a play, and she watched around this time where she watched a geisha attack her lover with a large knife.
Oh my God. I know where this is going. Okay.
So she decided,
Jesus. Okay.
If I can't have you, nobody will. So I'm going to stab. A few days later, after seeing this play, she pawned some of her clothing and used the money to buy a large kitchen knife.
Did I know you were going to say that? I did.
Now, she had said later on that I pulled the knife out of my bag and threatened him as he had done in the as the geisha had done in the play, and I told him, I'll kill you if I can't have you. Right?
That's not a turn on, but okay. I mean,
being a man,
yeah,
being a man, yeah, he was like, you silly woman. Tricks are made for kids.
That's for the old people listening.
So they went off on one of their weekends.
Wait, so she threatens him with a big ass knife that she like pawned her clothes to get.
This is what she says, that she.
Damn, girl. Okay, let's go on a weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she said this is what she planned to tell him the next time she saw him. So the next time they go off on this trip.
Okay.
And she does it, and he's like, right. So it's another one of these getaway weekends. They're making love till the cops come knocking.
Okay.
And now Wikipedia was like, oh, she just strangled him because she was jealous. But later on in her testimony, she says that they were, that they had been doing erotic asphyxiation.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Because it makes
went wrong.
Sense.
Yeah. But because she's so jealous, it's kind of hard to tell is she telling the truth, or are the researchers telling the truth? So
I mean, it feels to me like it's maybe a combination. Like she was maybe like they were doing that, and then she was like, well, if I keep going, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to, win. I don't know.
So one source says that, so they go away on May 16th.
Okay.
They go away for a couple days. And so on May 16th was the first time that they did the erotic asphyxiation.
Okay.
And it went really, really well.
Okay.
So on the morning of the 18th, again, they're just in this place, just making love. Like that's all they're doing. They're eating, making love, talking, making like that kind of thing, right?
Listen, as someone who really wants to travel and see the world, I'm a little bit like, you got a weekend off and all you're doing is stay home and making love. I'm like, y'all, you got to like travel, you got to explore, maybe go snorkeling somewhere, but that's very me in my time and place. Okay.
Well, I mean, she's intensely in love with this guy. So she says on the morning of May 18th, 1936, again, they've been laying in bed making love how many times? Who knows? She said around 2 a.m. on May 18th, Ishida was asleep and she wrapped the sash twice around his neck. So maybe it's probably like, wake up, let's get this. I'm ready for sex. I need me some.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she didn't realize she had killed him until he died.
Oh my God. So he wasn't even awake? That's murder. Isn't that murder?
This is what she says. This is what she says. Yeah. Okay. I mean, again, take this with a grain of salt. Now, she did say to the cops afterwards, after I killed Ishida, I felt totally at ease, as though a burden had been lifted from my shoulders, and I felt a sense of clarity.
So that's murder. That's murder.
Yeah. Again, it's, and I think you're right because of what happens next. Okay.
Okay. Oh, let's hear it.
she's it's probably murder because instead of calling the cops like, oh my God, I killed him by accident, she proceeds to cut off his genitals.
Oh, wow. Okay. Whoa.
Yes. She cut them off. Then wrapped them in a newspaper and put them in the pocket of her kimono. She then wrote their names in blood on the bed sheets and carved her name in his arm. And then she calmly left the hotel room.
Lavetta?
Yes.
She's a murderer. Of the kind you love.
Now, normally I'm like, yeah, stab, 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 strangle, strangle, strangle. But I can't be on your side.
Listen, I will say this, that there's levels that she needed intervention so many times in her life and never got it. And like, that's possible that this is what you create when you don't.
Right.
When you don't fix it. When you don't try to fix it. When you don't say, hey, why don't we talk about your things like feelings and emotion?
I also think cutting off the genitals, like, because I could have bought it was an accidental killing, because people have died from, engaging in erotic asphyxiation, but the fact that she cut off his genitals and then left. So later, the maid comes into the room.
Part of her name, if anyone's wondering who did this, it's on his dead arm. It's written.
Yeah. So the maid came in and freaked the fuck out, of course.
Never working there again.
Yeah. The newspaper, exactly. The newspapers went wild. And of course, the hunt was on for SADA Abe at this point. And so the newspaper sends this out along with the radio, because radio was becoming a big thing at this time.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, but at first, before it gets out to the radio, in the city, in Tokyo, reports go out. They're all on the lookout for her. She checks into a Tokyo hotel under a pseudonym and begins writing goodbye letters to her friends and family.
Okay.
And in the letter, she said she was planning on going to Osaka and to commit suicide.
Okay.
But authorities finally caught up to her and they arrested her. The newspapers, again, sensing an opportunity, because this is sensational. Like, this is like they're hearing cash registers, seeing dollars, seeing yen signs everywhere. Yep. So all the reports go out. People are freaking the fuck out. They dig into her background, and soon Goro, the professor with political aspirations, his association is dug up, and it destroys any political aspirations that he would have.
He should have just married her, and then, but who's to say that she would have been okay?
Exactly. So she was questioned by the cops, and the cops reported that they were actually impressed with how calm she was.
Yeah. It concerns me as well.
She calmly explained to them that she couldn't bear for Ishida to be with another woman. Basically what she told him. And he laughed, ha, silly woman. I will be safe with you. You say you're going to stab me, but I'm going to have sex and then go to sleep and turn my back on you. I'm not victim blaming. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like,
but when someone tells you who they are, my recommendation is you believe them. Yes.
Yeah. Now, Tokyo, huge story. Newspapers caught wind of it, but this was so sensational, especially the mutilation of the genitals. Radio was big at the time, and it was like, so because radio was big at the time, the story of SADA Abe was able to get all over the country.
Oh, wow.
Even in small parts of the country. Especially because she was being framed as a heartless killer. And then sometimes,
framed or,
some people actually, I take that back. Actually, it became more of a romantic tone to it. And she was actually framed as a lovelorn celebrity in a lot of ways.
Okay. Because she chopped off genitals. You know what I'm saying?
But Miriam, she must have loved him so much. The love was so intense. It made her go crazy.
I really hope that I don't love anyone that much. Not that much. That doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one historian by the name of Mark Schreiber thinks that the SADA Abe incident occurred at a time when the Japanese media were preoccupied with extreme political and military troubles.
I was just going to throw that out there.
And so this was like a distraction. And that's also why the public was really, really interested. And also it was a sex scandal on top of it.
That's fun. Sex scandals are
always fun.
Yeah.
Always fun. Now, the trial began in November 25th because there was no question that she did it. It's just a matter of like,
again,
she did that shit. She did that shit.
Wrote who did it in his dead arm. She was like, guys, it was me. I did it.
Yeah. Okay. It's how does the Taylor Swift song go? It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Something like that. Yay.
She was arrested in May and the trial began on November 25th, 1936. Okay. Large crowds gathered outside the courthouse. Now, side note, this is why it's also, because men are just gross. They just have to be gross. The judge presiding over the trial reportedly admitted to being sexually aroused by the details involved in the case.
Fuck? Then get a new judge. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, also, like, do you not have a diary? Can you write it in there? Shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying?
I don't need to. It's TMI, sir. Ew. TMI, sir.
Ew.
Now, she pleaded guilty and described her misfortunes of the family losing their wealth, being attacked, being raped, being, sent to the geisha house. And the court recognized that she also, of course, what you were, we've all been talking around, that she had diminished mental state. It was a mental breakdown. So they did convict her of murder, but in the second degree, and of mutilating a corpse. The judge sentenced her. Degree. Yeah, it could be, but because they feel like she basically kind of snapped, that it wasn't, even though we feel like it's premeditated because she told him she'd stab him, but also she strangled him and then mutilated him.
That is true.
And did stab him. So also I think they realized that she wasn't quite in her, it was she snapped. Yeah. The judge sentenced her to 6 years. Yeah. Now, before the sentencing, it's actually not a lot of time considering, I feel like that, before sentencing began, she gave a statement that read, quote, "The thing I regret most about this incident is that I have come to be misunderstood as some kind of sexual pervert. There had never been a man in my life like Ishida. There were men I liked and with whom I slept without accepting money, but none made me feel the way I did toward him." End quote.
I mean, I think this whole story is a cry for the need for support, for mental health support, to stop every single male human from touching a woman who does not want to be touched. Like, there are consequences.
And it's also, a cautionary tale of like, that's why we have social programs in place to help people when they're going through stuff. Yes. She didn't have the, like you said, psychiatry and psychology has come a long way. She didn't have the tools to or her family didn't have the tools to get her counseling after she was raped at 14.
I mean, they basically blamed her ultimately. Yeah. Like, now you're acting out. Well, she's acting out because she has PTSD.
Yeah.
And she's still a child. Like, and there's only so far you can push someone, really.
Exactly. So I'm almost finished here. So in prison, she proved to be a model prisoner.
Okay.
And because of this, she was released early on November 10th, 1940. So 4 years later. After prison, she first lived with her sister, then moved on to work as a maid in different places, just trying to rebuild her life at each point, people discovered her identity and either a relationship within or she would lose her job. Now, and also the war is coming to an end. So she has to survive the atomic bombs and the fire bombs being dropped on Japan.
Wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah. In 1946, Japanese women finally got the right to vote.
Oh, that took too long. Got it.
I know. And it's only about less than 20 years after we got the right.
Yeah,
or
also
about
took
20.
Too long.
Yeah, about 25 years after we got the right to vote. So, she after the vote though, her life was then seen in a new light, kind of like what happened with Monica Lewinsky in today's light. We're starting to see it. So she was no longer a woman who strangled her lover, but rather a young woman who had been exploited by men throughout her life.
I mean, if that isn't also very, very true. because that is a fact. And again, you can only push someone so far.
Exactly. So a new interest in her life happened around this time, and plays and books were written about her from this new POV and framed in this new way. In 1952, she began working at a working class pub called Hishikiki-sui in Inari-cho in downtown Tokyo. So it's a neighborhood. Okay. Relatively low profile. She started to build her life, and she stayed there for 18 years. Basically, she found community in this area, and she was actually, in fact, nominated, and actually she was awarded Model Employee Award from the Restaurant Association.
Okay.
However, by 1970, she disappeared from the public eye, and just sort of fell off the face of the earth. There was a filmmaker by the name of Nagisa Oshima who claimed that he tracked her down in the Kansai countryside, where she was living out the remainder of her life in a Buddhist nunnery in tranquility. But that has never been verified, really.
Okay.
For the most part, her manner and date of her death is still unknown.
Wow.
Even though there's several films and TV shows that have been written about her, including one, a 1975 film called A Woman Called Sada, and a 1976 erotic classic, Japanese classic called In the Realm of the Senses. One last note is that one theory is that the syphilis was often treated with mercury.
Yeah.
Back in the day. So this could have caused her mental degradation and could explain somewhat her violent outbreaks and behavior.
Lavetta, I'm going to pretend that I know things and say that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That would
along
make
with the PTSD.
So much sense. You have PTSD.
Yep.
And then on top of which, and then if you see how she's trying to rebuild her life, like she is not like a murderer, you know, like they've heard there are like bad seeds out there, right? But like I'm not getting that from her. And I really hope that she like went to like a nunnery or a Buddhist thing.
I hope so too.
Chill,
I hope that she died like peaceful, but also the stress and trauma of working in a brothel, like, and not in the way that people can have OnlyFans or like the way we want, individuals to be able to do sex work if they want to it in a safe environment. No. She's being forced in these ways, and she was threatened every day, like the trauma and the hypervigilance that she had to live under for decades.
Yeah.
Along with like probably the treatment with mercury.
Along with the mercury that was like slowly entering her system. I mean, and like the fact that she came out of it, honestly, like good for her. I mean, don't kill people, but like, good for her for like getting it together and having this sense of like, this is not who I am. And she admitted it, She
admitted it. Sada Abe. That is Sada Abe, guys.
Amazing.
What a doozy. Well, guys, that wraps it up for our latest episode of Notorious Women Podcast. Remember to follow us on all the things. Give us 5 stars. 5 stars.
Pretty please.
5 out of 5.
With a cherry on top, pretty please.
Okay. Yes. And remember to share, like, and subscribe and download every week. We got to get our download numbers up because we know you guys love us. Yeah. We just need to see a little love in the numbers.
More love. I don't know if that's a song.
On wings of love. No, I won't do that.
Yes.
All right, guys. And also, if you want to become a patron and support the show, you can go to patreon.com/notoriouswomen. That's patreon.com/notoriouswomen. And Miriam's going to tell you how to track us down in other ways.
All right. So if you want to email us, we have, you can email us at notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Instagram. It's so easy. It's literally Notorious Women Podcast. We are there. You could also DM us if you'd like to contact us that way. But come follow us. It's a fun little IG moment. We find fun things.
I promise I'll start doing the IG stuff.
Lavetta.
And also comments. We love comments. Keep the comments coming.
Yes. Pretty please. Cherry on top.
Please. But I will be joining the IG.
I'm so excited about that.
No promises. No promises.
Okay, you know what? I'll calm down eventually.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to make it a surprise when I show up. All right, guys.
All right.
That wraps it up. We will see you guys next week.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
indeed. Bye.